Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome everybody to the Penn Ag Democrats. It's always nice to be here. We have a good crowd as always. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. But most of all, I want to thank those who are watching in the ag community for everything that they do for the state. We'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance. And we're happy to have our Center County Controller, Jason Moser. Jason.
Thank you, Scott. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Jason. And as a special treat, brought all the way from State College, we have one of our star singers today. We have our county treasurer, Colleen Kennedy, is going to sing the national anthem for us. And she says, please join in. Colleen, please.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
This is like our version of Center County's Got Talent. Wow. And a very good friend of mine, our chairman of the Penn Ag Democrats, and Senator Street, could you please come up and give us the invocation, sir?
All right, if we can bow our heads. Dear God, thank you for bringing us together. Please thank you for allowing us to travel here safely. As we go through these proceedings, let us think about why we are here. Let us think about, as you do under the least of these, so you do under you, God. Let us care about one another. Let us empower one another. Let us uplift one another, and let this be a great session. And then let us return home through our byways and highways safely. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Senator. And as we keep moving along, I was wondering, how many veterans do we have out in the audience today? Please stand up. Everybody who served, please stand up. Let's give these folks a big round of applause. Thank you. How many union members? As a card-carrying carpenters union since 1977, would my brothers and sisters please stand up? All my good union members. Thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for what you do. Next, could our county chairs stand up and just introduce yourself and tell us what county you're from, if you could?
Valerie Powell, Bedford County.
We've got Indiana County in the back there.
Huntington County, Ed Charles.
Center County, Margie Swoboda.
Northumberland County, John Merchalinsky.
Any other county chairs? Oh, there you are. Thank you. Did I get you all? Thank you. How about if I take a quick break from going through, because we have very important people. First, the main event for the emceeing is Senator Street. And Senator Street, I'm going to give it to you now.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome. How's everybody feeling today? Well, look, it has been a roller coaster of a year for Democrats across this Commonwealth and across this country. And we want to thank each of you for your commitment. We had a great state committee meeting in the fall where we got people engaged. We were in the Lehigh Valley. And now we're here again, right the week before we go into our big Democratic National Convention. A convention where we will do doing something that a lot of folks think we weren't going to be able to do earlier. We're going to nominate for President of the United States our first woman to be nominated as President of the United States, who will be elected president. Now, we know we can't take anything for granted, because the last time when we nominated Hillary Clinton, and we thought it was, and we looked, and it looked good, but we took our foot off the gas just a little bit early. One of the mistakes that when we look back we made in 2016 was we didn't spend enough time talking about what was happening in rural Pennsylvania. Yeah. We did not spend, that was one of the things that hurt us. There were people who voted for Barack Obama twice and then voted for Donald Trump. There were people who we should have gotten, but they said, I didn't really believe the guy, the orange guy we're talking about, but they said his campaign was the only ones talking to us. And a lot of you were out there working hard, but we didn't make sure you had material. So today, it's not the end, but we got a first blush of materials, including a poster that has all of our statewide candidates' names on it. We have lawn signs. We've got materials for you. We want to encourage you to keep knocking on doors, keep talking to folks. When they say that working Democrats have to reach out to blue-collar folks in small towns and in rural America, I want you to understand they're talking about the people in this room. They're talking about the work you have to do. Let me explain why. We know that if we win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, that blue wall holds up, that Hillary Clinton, and we do what we didn't do for Hillary Clinton, and we do that outreach, that Kamala Harris will win where Hillary Clinton lost. We have to remember how it felt that night when we eased up, because we thought we were there. And I know a lot of people were feeling good, but we eased up a little too soon. We're not going to make that mistake. So we're going to make sure that Kamala Harris is the President of the United States of America. And how about Governor Walz? Governor Walz, a man who was a high school football coach, a school teacher, and who served this country for over 2 decades with honor. He understands how to talk to regular folks, and you'll be seeing him as well. He's going to be talking to you. We've got a ticket that can win. Now, I want you to understand, remember when at the second term of Barack Obama, and he was the president, and there was this thing called Supreme Court picks. You remember that? And he was supposed to be able to appoint some people to the U.S. Supreme Court. But we had gotten a Barack elected, but we didn't take care of business, and wasn't us in Pennsylvania, but as a country, we hadn't taken care of business, and the Republicans controlled the United States Senate. Right. And as a consequence to that, Mitch McConnell called himself the Grim Reaper of any Barack Obama opportunities to appoint people to the Supreme Court. And nothing happened. And then when Donald Trump got in there, we saw a flood of federal appointments to the bench. Now, we need to remember that, because if that moment doesn't take place, the Dobbs decision doesn't occur. We have to remember, we talk about protecting a woman's right to choose. It's not good enough to just make sure that we elect a president of the United States. We have to make sure that that president has a Democratic United States Senate that will confirm judges, that will protect the right to organize, that will protect the right of a woman to choose, that will protect the right to vote, that will protect our basic rights, rights that we all fight for, rights that we all get up in the morning and take for granted. Now, we have an opportunity in Pennsylvania to not only influence who is the president of the United States, and we're going to do that, but we have an opportunity to make sure that Democrats continue to have control of the United States Senate. And the way we do that is by fighting for a guy who's been fighting for us for a long time, who's brought back resources for infrastructure, for roads and bridges, and make sure we fix up our schools, because Pennsylvania schools got lead and asbestos and resources for that. A guy who is remember when COVID and everything was shut down? Well, he was a partner with President Biden and Vice President Harris in getting us resources to get things opened up. And no, he wasn't part of the team that told us to drink bleach. But a guy who has worked for us, whether you live in a big city or you live in rural Pennsylvania, he's worked for all of us for a very long time. So it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and make sure we reelect a friend of Pennsylvania Democrats, a friend of all Pennsylvanians, and a friend of the United States of America, the senior senator from Pennsylvania, the Honorable Senator Bob Casey.
Well, Sharif, thanks very much. Scott, thank you. Well, thanks very much. It's great to be back with Penn Ag Democrats. I've been coming to these events for a couple years. We're starting to get measuring that in decades. But where's Diane? Diane, thank you for your leadership and what you do every year. Diane, you've been doing this a while, and I know you started Penn Ag Democrats yourself when you were in second grade. Is that right? No, I'm only kidding. And Peggy, where's Peggy Lucas? I know is back there. But thank you for the entire team here and for what you're doing. Because you know what? I'm going to pick up a little bit where Sharif left off. We got a story to tell in rural Pennsylvania. I could tell the same story if I were representing any other state. But we got a story to tell about what has happened the last couple of years in terms of Democratic votes, Democratic work, and Democratic investment in rural communities like we've never seen before. It's not even close. It's not even a close call. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, not with too much detail, but as much time as we have. But I do want to start by thanking Sharif for his leadership of our party. I was just saying this morning, we were over at Ag Progress Days. I think I said in Sharif's presence, if you've been a Democratic chair in any state, and I would include in the county chairs who are here, if you've done that work for 6 months, a year, or 25 years, whatever time period, you're going straight to heaven. There's just no question about it, because it's not easy. It was easy to be a Democratic chair of a state or a county organization in 1940, right? That was pretty good. You became Democratic chair, and they gave you like 5,000 jobs to hand out. That would have been fun. It's a different story today. You work for nothing. You give of yourselves, you lead a party, and that party contributes to the success of candidates, and even if it's in a rural area that we lose, but shaving those margins, reducing those margins. And I was just looking at this coming over here today. We have a chance this year to make progress in the final vote that's counted in Pennsylvania. I just looked at this. In the last election, the exit polls showed that in urban Pennsylvania, which happens to be almost exactly the same percentage of the state as rural Pennsylvania. And according to the exit poll, it's like 22% on each side. The suburban category is the big category. But in the two equivalent areas of the state, the former president, whose name I'm going to try not to mention, he got 27% of the urban vote. Joe Biden got the rest, right? But in rural Pennsylvania, Joe Biden did better than the other guy did in urban Pennsylvania. Joe Biden got 30% of the vote. I think in 2024, for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and for my race and the whole statewide ticket, we can improve upon that 30, get it up by a few points with your work and with our work together. So I know that's part of my job as a candidate. It's part of the Biden, or the Harris, I almost said Biden again, but we're going to thank him in a moment. But the Harris-Walz ticket, as well as our whole statewide ticket. I saw Aaron in the back. Aaron McClellan. And Eugene, is Eugene back there? Eugene's over here. And Malcolm's here too. All of us are trying to campaign in every possible community, every county, and part of that is making sure that we're telling that story in rural Pennsylvania. Why do I say it's a story we have to tell? Because when you look at what happened, especially in 21 and 22, we continued it in 23 and 24. We're trying to get a farm bill done. We got a Senate Democratic version, which is a damn good bill, to use technical language, right? But it's critically important because it helps on all the priorities that farmers and farm families and folks who are running our agricultural industry, but it also helps the most vulnerable among us. One of the big sticking points is the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The Republicans in the House, led by a Pennsylvanian, by the way, have for years, every time a farm bill comes up, every 5 years, we had one it's now 6 years, but 2018, if you go back 5 years before that and 5 years before that, every time the farm bill is reauthorized, what do they go to cut first? The SNAP program, which is wrong to begin with, but secondly, it's stupid, okay? Happens to have both of those things in common. It's wrong because people need assistance with the food they eat and the nutrition that they need. And we found out in the pandemic how reliant people were on the SNAP program. It is a critically important program. I believe it's a moral imperative that we fund that program. But guess what? Guess what? Even if you didn't care about the moral question, even if you didn't care about feeding people, which every American should, I don't care who you are, you should care about that. But even if you didn't care about any of that, you could be for the SNAP program because it helps every American. Every single American benefits from that program. Why do I say that? Because there's not a single program in the federal government, not one, that has a greater jump-starting effect on our economy than the SNAP program. So when you spend $1 on SNAP, you get about $1.80 back, and that's a conservative number. A lot of people think it's higher than that. It is a bang for the buck program. It makes sense. You give people money, they have to buy food because they have to eat, and they inject that money into the economy. So whether it's the moral question, whether it's us giving a damn about our kids and about the most vulnerable, kids and seniors who need to eat, and a lot of people in between, or whether you want to focus on the economic argument. We have to win that battle. Now, I think eventually they're going to come around, because if they continue to hold up the farm bill, I think the ag community is going to be pretty upset with them. So we're going to continue to work to get the farm bill passed into law. But you know what? Our party has so much more to talk about. If you wanted to describe the American Rescue Plan in one word, you could use the word rural. There was rural investment all over the American Rescue Plan. Look at all those county governments that were bailed out, and justifiably so. County governments, township governments, boroughs all across Pennsylvania would have been bankrupt without the American Rescue Plan. But it doesn't just mean government support. How about all the rural counties in the state that some small population rural counties got millions and millions of dollars for their schools? That was separate and apart from what went to the township and what went to the county government and what went into rural mortgage assistance. That alone was like $30 billion across the country. So whether it was housing or childcare or law enforcement or schools or sewers or broadband, that's just the infrastructure bill, or just the rescue bill. I haven't even gotten to the infrastructure bill yet, which is the greatest investment, probably the greatest investment in rural America ever, is in that infrastructure bill. Roads and bridges that are disproportionately in rural areas. The water and sewer projects all over this state. The high-speed internet investment that's coming to this state. My opponent was criticizing it. He said none of the money's reaching these communities. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's been up in Connecticut running a hedge fund. He didn't vote in Pennsylvania for 15 years. And he's going to tell us how to implement an infrastructure bill on high-speed internet. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And he doesn't give a damn about it, because you know what he wants to do? Is the first thing he wants to repeal, if he gets to the United States Senate, is to repeal the infrastructure bill. Well, you know what? He's not going to get that chance. I'm going to beat him on Election Day. He's not going to repeal that bill. He's not going to do a lot of things, because we're not going to let him get there. We're not going to have a senator from this state be another vote for a MAGA majority, number one. That's what it would be. Not a Republican majority, not a conservative majority, a MAGA majority controlled by one guy. And you know who the hell that one guy is. And that their first order of business is to repeal the infrastructure bill. Then they want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. And he's committed to doing that. My opponent, who claims to be for Pennsylvania, even though he's been in Connecticut for the last 15 years. In that Inflation Reduction Act, if you repeal that, here's what you repeal. You repeal all the investment in climate change. So I guess we're just to throw up our hands and surrender to climate change. That's the McCormick Republican MAGA position. Just don't do anything about it. It'll go away. That's what they're telling us. No, we're not going to say that. It's not going to go away. We're going to confront it with tax credits. We're going to build a new economy, and we're going to defeat climate change, because we're Americans. We like to win. We like to win against tough battles. So, but that's not all. If you repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, you repeal the $35 cap on insulin. I want to hear him say that in a debate, that he supports the repeal of the $35 cap on insulin for seniors. That's his position. That is disqualifying for anyone trying to represent a state with such a high population of seniors. So when I debate him, he's going to hear about that insulin cap. I'm giving him a little heads up here for the debate. The third thing it would repeal, if you repeal that Inflation Reduction Act, is to repeal the provision about Medicare negotiating for lower drug prices. So I guess his and his fat cat friends, who make a hell of a lot of money investing in China and places like that and making millions of dollars by doing it, I guess they don't need help with their prescription drug costs because they're so damn rich. They don't need help. Well, a lot of seniors I know need that help, and they're not going to prevent us from getting those costs down on prescription drugs for seniors. They're not going to stop us from doing that. So when you go down this list of investments in rural communities, investments in the people, there are a lot of seniors in rural communities that are getting that cap on insulin. A lot of seniors in rural communities that are getting the benefit or will get the benefit from that lower price for prescription drugs. A lot of families in rural communities that got child care help because Democrats stood up and helped them with the American Rescue Plan and with the Inflation Reduction Act and with so many other investments in our families. How about the child tax credit? It's one of the best things we ever did as a country, not just as a party. And guess what? They not only don't want to do what we did in 2021 with the child tax credit, and I go through rural counties in Pennsylvania, 85, 87%, 88%, 90%, 92% in some counties of the children were benefited by the child tax credit. So it's a really good idea. It reduced poverty like nothing else in 75 years. We finally found the solution to reduce childhood poverty, and like a lot of things in Washington, we decided not to do it again. But here comes this year, and we get a bipartisan bill out of the House, unusually bipartisan, with the child tax credit, business provisions, and a low-income housing tax credit. A really good tax bill. Sailed through the House with over 300 votes. Came to the Senate. Who blocked it? You guessed it. Senate Republicans. Because they think they're going to win the majority, and they're going to have another tax bill in 2025 that gives away the store to rich people, the richest people on the planet Earth and in the history of the human race, and the biggest corporations on the planet Earth. That's what they want to rig the tax code again for. We're not going to let them do that. I'm going to defeat David McCormick. We're going to keep the Senate majority, and we're going to get a tax code that gives a tax cut to the middle class and doesn't give a dime to the billionaires and the big corporations. That's what we're going to do. So we got some work to do, but I think we're only getting warmed up when it comes to helping rural communities. There's a lot more we can do. I've got the leading bipartisan bill in the United States Senate to help rural communities, the Rural Prosperity and Partnership Act. It's a bill directed specifically at rural communities. Sometimes rural communities need help with child care. We should help them with that. Sometimes they need help with housing. We should have a program that's directed at helping them do that. Sometimes they need help with job training. We should help them with that. And sometimes they need help just navigating the difficulties that communities have getting federal dollars. We should help them with that as well. So we're going to continue to invest in rural communities. We're going to continue to invest in and lift up rural families, and we're going to continue to fight for the most vulnerable people across our state, in rural communities, urban communities, or anywhere in between. And you know what? That's because we're not just Democrats, we're Americans. We give a damn about people's lives. We care about these communities, and we don't just talk about it, we invest and we lift them up. So I'm grateful for all the help you're giving me and all of our candidates. I think we've got a real lift now from what's happened over just the last couple of weeks with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And I just happened to be at that rally in Philly a little more than a week ago, and the roof on that place was lifting off. Every single seat was filled, and a lot of people standing, and all across the perimeter of the roof of that building, every single seat on the roof was filled, because people want to win. And they know that we can do this in a way that's, as Tim Walz talked about Kamala being joyful, that's what I felt in that room. People are upbeat and joyful. They know that we've got tough problems. They know we have a long way to go to solve them, but they're joyful and focused on solving those problems. And I'm going to make sure that I do my part in this election to win the race, because we've got to make sure that we're successful in this election. We've got to make sure that we lift up not only our Commonwealth, but our country. You're helping us do it by getting the vote out in rural communities, by shaving those margins. And I think in the end, not only will I win this race, not only will our ticket win, but I think the American people will win. Thank you, and God bless you.
As always, all I can say is wow. We're going to continue down with some quick housekeeping that I'm going to take care of here. How about those individuals who are fortunate enough to be delegates to going, our convention delegates? How many do we have here? Our Democratic, Marcus Kavoda, who else do we have? Aaron? Just shout out your name back there. Thank you. Those folks are important, Senator. They're going to make sure that the top of the tickets gets run well. Next, I just want to shout out for my local legislators. I saw Judy Schwank, our Senator Judy Schwank, the chairwoman of Ag. We've got my good friend, Eddie Day Paczynski, is the majority chairman of Ag in the House. Do we have any other House members or candidates in here? Oh, my goodness, one of my good friends, sorry about that. Paul Takak, Center County, right next to me. What a great guy. And I apologize, Eddie, I can't see. There's a light shining in my eye, so anybody underneath of it, I can't see. We have Emily Kincaid, where's she at? Emily, come on in here. Give me another shout out here. Oh, well, Paul, where you at? Come in here and wave your hand at the folks. Paul Freer, the state representative, come on in. There you go, Paul. Oh, no. See, I would do Malcolm Kenyatta, but I'm not allowed to. You got to understand there's a hierarchy of how these work. I am literally the undercard for those folks coming in because I have got my senator, my friend, and my chairman takes care of the good stuff. With that, let's keep going down here to make sure we have it. And you know what? We have two candidates for federal office. If they could come on up. Just very quickly. I want our federal offices. They're running. I want you all to come up. Zach, Beth, come on up. I want you guys just to quickly introduce yourself. Tell us the district you're running in and why America will love you more than we do.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Dems. I'm Beth Farnham, the Democratic nominee for Pennsylvania's 13th Congressional District. In case you don't know it, south of here, it's Adams, Franklin, Fulton, Bedford, Cambria, Blair, Huntington, Mifflin, Juniata, Perry counties, the western edge of Cumberland, the northwest corner of Somerset. I won't quiz you. but I do believe in education, and I am running to protect our precious democracy, to defend public education, to enshrine into federal law our reproductive freedoms, such as access to safe and legal abortion, birth control, can't believe I have to say that one, in vitro fertilization, as well as gender-affirming care. I'm also looking to enshrine into federal law our immigration reform and universal health care, as well as gun safety. Now, I'm running to defend democracy, but I have to because our current representative does not stand for it. Representative John Joyce voted against certifying our valid electoral votes in the wee hours of January 7th on the back end of, and this is my name for him, convicted felon Trump's violent insurrection. So, I need you all to vote for me, please, and to tell your constituents, please vote for Beth Farnham, because when you choose Beth Farnham, you choose reproductive freedom, you choose gun safety, you choose public education, immigration reform, and most of all, you choose democracy. Thank you.
You know, as they say, you can't have Penn Ag Dems without a Farnham girl there. And with that, with our next individual running is a very good friend of mine, like family even. My good friend running for Congress, Zach, come on up and introduce yourself.
So my name is Zach Woolmer. I'm running for Pennsylvania's 15th Congressional District. I'm actually running against someone that was mentioned today. Our senator mentioned Glenn Thompson. Louder?
There you go.
Our senator mentioned Glenn Thompson in his speech, not by name, but by his actions. And I wish more people knew about his actions. You see, Glenn Thompson is the chair of the House Agricultural Committee. He is in control of all the economic development and a lot of SNAP funding. And he got to that point by serving for 16 years in our legislature. And he finally has the power to write a farm bill. And what is in that farm bill? A $30 billion cut to SNAP funding. A cut to the Stockyards and Packers Association. If you're not familiar with it, it enforces the antitrust in agriculture. It is the first line against agribusiness encroaching on your family farms. And he said, I don't want to give food to poor people. I don't want to help bust up these corporations. He said, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to give it to big ag crop subsidies. He thought that was a good use of his time and power. All right, that's a shame. Because if I know anything about this country, the people who have the easiest time are not the recipients of SNAP funding. I've been eligible for SNAP every single day I've been alive, and the first time I found out about it was when I went to college and I got an email and said, sir, do you want SNAP funding? That is a shame. Food insecurity is going up in every single county in my district except Center County. Forest County has the highest rate of food insecurity in the state at 17%, and it has the lowest actual taking of SNAP funding. Because these people are so poor and so desperate, they don't even know what help is available to them. And before they can access it, it's going to be cut by a man who's never spent a day in poverty, who doesn't care about poor people, and doesn't live by Matthew like I do. When I read Matthew, it doesn't tell me to judge other people. It doesn't tell me to hate my neighbors. It says to wash feet, to help the poor, and do everything you possibly can to help other people who aren't as fortunate as you. And I went from being someone who was very unfortunate in my life. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in a situation where I was not safe at home. And now that I'm in a position to do something about it, I'm not going to say, let's do what's best for Zach. I'm going to say what's the best for Central Pennsylvania, and that is sending a legislator to Washington, D.C. that understands people, that cares about people, and is willing to look past all the corporate nonsense and fight for you. Thank you so much.
And for those of you that don't know, Zach grew up in the same neighborhoods I grew up in. Zach, no one says it more eloquently about where we're from. And just to make sure we don't forget anything, I'm looking down here. We've got introductions. I've got to finish up here. Oh, just to let you know, for those watching, we are fortunate to be at the Lions Club in Center County. Please give a big applause for the folks who made the food today. Thank you so very much. And most of all, thank the Lions Club for what they do. And for that, Senator Casey, I want to thank you for already introducing our Penn Ag Dems staff, and those at Diane and Peggy and everyone that do the.
For Scott.
Yeah. I am Scott Conklin, state representative from this wonderful community. But with that, I have one more very important job to do. I must now introduce one more time my friend, Senator Sharif Street, who's going to finish off and kick off what I believe is the backbone when you're looking at this election this year. The row officers, the individuals that are there, they not only lift each one of us up, but they help the entire ticket for going across state. With that, Senator Street.
All right, now I'm going. Before I do that, and we are going to hear from all of our row officers. But I'm going to take a little privilege, and I want to first thank. I want to thank Peggy Lucas. I want to thank Diane Gregg for bringing us together. Can we give another hand for Peggy Lucas and Diane Gregg and bringing everybody together? One more thing.
Very important thing. I'm sorry, Senator.
He's got another important thing.
I have very important. Jeremy Breon, where are you at? Jeremy Breon, Thonotari's office. I can't believe I forgot him. Jerry, thank you so much, Jeremy Breon. With that, I'm sorry, Sharif. It's like
no problem. Yeah, well, we do this regularly. So listen, we got to. I know is Senator Schwank still here? Because I know the Democratic Senate Chair of the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee, Senator Judy Schwank was here. We're going to let her have a word. But while we're getting her, I know we have the House Chair, the Majority Chair of the House Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee, and we're going to hear from him, none other than Majority Chairman, Representative Eddie Day Pashinsky. Come on.
Thank you very much, Senator. How lucky are we to have Senator Street working hard for us. Man, he goes back many, many years, and he's worked constantly, and we are in a very, very good spot. How lucky are we to have Senator Casey as our senator? Huh? We are very, very fortunate. Hey, how lucky are we that we have the majority in the House by one vote, 102 to 101. And I want you to realize that one vote has allowed us to pass nearly 400 bills. Did you get that? 400 bills. And those bills were designed about you. It was designed about the people. It was designed for the working class. It was designed for the people that fought, worked hard, and built this country. You know, that other guy, I forget his name, the guy, he's always talking. He's going to make America great again. Let me tell you something. America is great. And it was far greater before him. Okay? And we're going to continue. Those flags mean everything in the world to us because you know why we're here today? Because of men and women. Regular, hard-working men and women that gave their heart, soul, and their lives in every one of those wars, who fought for us and died for us to give us what? Freedom, democracy, rule of law, choice. Yes, the Constitution. Why is America? Why? Why are we the wealthiest? Why are we the strongest? Why? Because our Constitution, our government, what we put together, it gives everybody a chance. Did you hear that? We all, because we're Americans, have the chance, with hard work, with the proper education, to improve our lives. And when we improve our lives, we improve the lives of our children. I'm proud to say my dad was a coal miner. Hard-working coal miner. The people that migrated, yeah, I'm an immigrant. My family immigrated from Eastern Europe. Northeastern PA is where I'm from. So we have Polish, Ukrainian, Italian, Irish, German, Hungarian. That's who we are. We're all immigrants up there. Why did we come here? Because America gives everybody a chance for a future. You got to work, got to get educated, but you can do it. So my dad, coal miner, fought in World War II along with my uncles. I'll never forget. I'll tell you a quick little story. So as a little boy, I lived in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. My dad, when the whistle would blow and the shift was over, I could go to the alley, not the lane, the alley where the coal dust was. Look down the alley, and when I saw my dad, I could run down there, and I would grab his lunch pail, and we would walk up to the house. And where would the miner go then? Into the cellar, because they were all dirty. And then they would wash up, not in a shower, in a sink. And then they would change their clothes so they could go upstairs. And I'll never forget him. He's cleaning up, and he says to me, "You're going to school. You're going to college. I don't care what the hell you learn, but you're not going to work in that goddamn mine." Now, I tell you that story because of the simple fact, I never planned on being a state rep. I never planned on being a music teacher. It's the way life went, but America gave me that chance. Got it? And we, as government officials, want to continue to give you that chance for you, your family, your children to continue to grow and improve your lives. America is great. It has been great. And we're going to continue to be great. And now we have that chance, and it's now your responsibility. It is every citizen's responsibility. To what? Yeah, first, this is what I'm going to tell you got to do. Search for the truth and the facts. Let the truth and the facts guide your words and your actions and your vote. And I'll tell you what, we are on the side of truth. We are fighting for everything that got us here. We are not going to give up. And now we have a great candidate for president, a great candidate for vice president. All my colleagues that were here today, we know, we work hard, we fight for you because it is an honor to serve. I thank you all very much. Serve for the facts and the truth. Let the truth and the facts guide your words and actions and your vote. Thank you.
All right, folks. So we got a couple more speakers. We're about to hear from our row officers. Listen, Vice President Harris, before she was Vice President of the United States, before she was a United States Senator, she served as the California State Attorney General. And she was, before that, she was the District Attorney. But as California State Attorney General, she was able to work with the Pennsylvania State Attorney General and Attorney Generals across the country to deal with some of our most pressing issues. One of those was she went after the billionaires who were producing hundreds of millions of extra doses of Oxycontin and Percocets and pumping those drugs into our communities. That affected rural communities, suburban communities, and urban communities. That's where the opioid epidemic came from. And she got Kamala Harris as Attorney General, along with Josh Shapiro and other Attorney Generals, got a multi-billion-dollar settlement and proved that that's where it was coming from because they were protecting regular people. And they understood it wasn't, they didn't give us mythology about some people with barefoot and backpacks marching drugs all over the country, because that's quite silly if you think about it. It was U.S. billionaires who were producing it and attorney generals who were protecting people's rights that did it. It were attorney generals that, when Josh Shapiro was attorney general, that went to court to protect our slate of electors that were put in place. And so the attorney general's race is incredibly important. And our next speaker is a guy who knows about protecting the rights of regular people. He's a guy, when he was auditor general, that did school audits, and he found waste, fraud, and abuse, and he went after, and he focused on issues that affected regular people. And as attorney general, we know he's going to stand up to protect the rights of a woman to choose, to protect the rights of people to organize, to protect the right to vote, to protect the rights to clean water, clean air, clean streams, to protect the rights of basic, regular Pennsylvanians. None other than our next Attorney General, my friend. Eugene DePasquale. Come on up, Eugene.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm going to give a shout out to Malcolm and Aaron who are here. We're having fun. We're each going to fight when we win this thing over which rest stop on the turnpike we're going to have named after us. So, I'm not sure which one Aaron. I personally want Midway, but we'll have that debate when this thing is over. Thank you, everyone, for being here. A couple of things really I want to stress. Number one, competing everywhere in Pennsylvania matters. We all know that we may not win the rural parts of the state, but we have to compete here. I think 2016 was a tremendous lesson in the wrong way, and that is, if we're not talking to everybody, of course they're not going to vote for us. But I also know this, particularly when it comes to the row offices, and I know Aaron and Malcolm will talk about their specific roles. When it comes to clean water in Pennsylvania, when I first investigated all the Marcellus Shale drilling and DEP not doing enough to protect our water, it was rural Pennsylvania well water that was mostly impacted by that. I don't care if you vote for me or not. Well, I care, but you know what I mean. But no matter who votes for me, I'll be the Attorney General for everybody. So rural Pennsylvania has a constitutional right to clean water as well, and I'll fight to make sure that happens. We also know that rural Pennsylvania is getting decimated with this opioid epidemic and fentanyl. Look, I know how bad drug addiction can be. My dad was wounded in Vietnam and eventually became addicted to drugs as a result of that. 35 years of addiction. Eventually him dealing in a 10.5-year federal prison sentence. We've done it the other way since Richard Nixon declared the war on drugs, and we haven't made it better. I'm going to turn it into a battle against addiction as your Attorney General. That'll benefit everyone in Pennsylvania. And I also know what these corporations are doing to rural Pennsylvania, whether it be prescription drug prices, these pharmacy benefit managers closing down local pharmacies, consolidating, jacking up your prices. I know what big shots can do because my brother had muscular dystrophy. That was before the Affordable Care Act. We were never able to have health insurance because of that. So when he passed away as a sophomore at the University of Pittsburgh, sorry, we're at Penn State, didn't mean to, hopefully get everyone too fired up about the Pitt-Penn State rivalry, but we had to take out loans to pay for the funeral simply because we never had health insurance. That's what these insurance companies are capable of doing. I will hold them accountable as your Attorney General, making sure that you get a fair fight, that you have an attorney that has your back, and making sure that these pharmacy benefit managers aren't screwing over average everyday Pennsylvanians. And also in an issue that is perhaps the clearest cut difference between my opponent and myself, who when asked about the position on abortion said, well, I don't have an opinion. I don't know how many people you know running for statewide office that don't have a position on abortion. Oh, he has one. He's just afraid to tell everybody. Unlike me, I make it very clear where I stand on this. Not only am I 100% pro-choice, but I've got a personal story that can back it up that I know how much this matters. And I know why it matters in rural parts of the state because, in some of their urban areas, we can get to a hospital in 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. Okay? In Elk County, on a good weather night, you're talking about to get to the maternity ward, 45 minutes minimum. Okay? So these hospital consolidations, mergers, I know Eddie knows about this in the legislature. But I know how much this matters personally because before we had our oldest Ben, we had an ectopic pregnancy. Now the lucky part was we had a 7-minute drive to the hospital. But we had an ectopic pregnancy at week 10. In the states of Florida, Texas, Idaho, Utah, Oklahoma today, decision made that night sends Tracy, myself, and Dr. Ross to prison. And we wanted kids. Let me be very clear about this, because my opponent won't. I not only will protect reproductive freedom for everyone in Pennsylvania, but for any woman fleeing one of these right-wing authoritarian states, I will protect their right to reproductive freedom as well. But before Malcolm, Aaron, and myself can fight over which rest stop on the turnpike is named after us, there's this little hitch we have to do. That's called winning. That's called winning. And there's this rule that we got to get more votes than the other people. With your help, spreading that word in rural Pennsylvania, we'll follow the theme that we've been talking about all over the state this year. Win big, lose small. Let's rack up the numbers in the parts we got to rack it up. Let's narrow the margins everywhere else. Let's talk to everybody. Because sometimes our party has made the mistake of not talking to everybody. We cannot do this with Pittsburgh and Philly alone. We need to talk to everybody. And with your help, we'll do that. All three of us will get across the finish line, and we'll help the governor move Pennsylvania forward. Thank you very much.
So, before Eugene was the Attorney General, he served as our Auditor General. When he was Auditor General, he understood that regular folk cared about what was going on in their schools. He understood it was important that we have school audits. He understood that what goes on, whether you're in a rural county or an urban county, this Auditor General should be looking at that. Our next Auditor General is going to understand that too. He's a guy who's got lived experience and knows what it's like to go walk into a school that's got some problems. He knows what it's like as a state representative. He's had to talk to constituents that are concerned about is government serving them efficiently. He brings a lot of energy to the ticket, but he brings a certain lived experience and understanding the problems that regular folk face. You know, he's my neighbor, my friend, and I affectionately call him the little brother that does big things. But he is a guy who's doing big things. Our next Auditor General, Malcolm Kenyatta.
It's my senator. You all get to share him today. It's my senator. I just want to highlight. I just want to say what has sort of been said multiple times today, but I think it's the most important thing. Just thank you. Thank you for what each and every one of you are doing. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. You know, we've heard this said multiple times that, you know, we need to win big in our urban areas, bring down the margins. But for you who are living here every single day, that can be a pretty depressing message to hear, frankly. That no matter what we do, oh my gosh, we're still going to lose. And yet, you all don't take your tent, pack it up, and go home. You all double down. You all double down. I say to people all the time, don't you dare consider counting out Democrats in rural Pennsylvania. When you have folks who are signing up to run for office in a race that you know is uphill with boulders that are on fire rolling down at you, but you understand that people in your communities deserve a choice, deserve a real champion who actually cares about them and doesn't just use the backdrop of your community to do the bidding of their big corporate interest. When you have people who do that, you deserve us to show up. You deserve us to know that we give a damn about you, that we care about the work that you're doing every single day. And so thank you for not just taking the path out to say, I'll just register as a Republican and just be a moderate Republican, make my life easier. I'm not telling you all stories you don't know. You all remember our friends in Reedville. Good friends of mine who on their own barn, on their own damn property, wanted to say the candidate they were voting for and had somebody burn it down, burn it to the ground. You all remember this. Nobody in my district is going to have their house firebombed because they want to put up a Kamala Harris sign. But you all are putting up your signs anyway. You're standing up anyway. Because you know what is at stake, not just for you, you know what is at stake for this entire Commonwealth, but because of where Pennsylvania is situated, I like to say in the center of the political universe, you know what's at stake for this entire country. It matters the work that you do. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you for what you do every single day. I just want to make this point, and it's been made about all these different candidates who are running. And Beth and Zach are running against two humdingers, as I like to say. You have folks who in the same breath, that they want to ban access to abortion, ban access to maternal health care. Where are these folks when it's time to invest in rural health care? Where are they? Where are these folks when we were in the House trying to make it more difficult, give the Attorney General more authority to take on these big hospital consolidations? Where are they? They're not on the side of rural Pennsylvania. They were on the side of the hospital lobbyists just recently, just a couple of months ago. They had nothing to say about the fact that 6 of our counties in Pennsylvania are maternal health care deserts. Deserts. We were all together, Aaron, Eugene, and I, in Clinton County a couple of weeks ago. Met a woman at that event. Was so happy she's going to be a grandma soon. She didn't get to be a grandma. It's incredible. But she said, what if my daughter has a complicated pregnancy like I have? Is she even going to be able to get the care that she deserves? And you would think that the Republicans who pretend to give a damn about these communities, that they would have a lot to say about that. That they would be up day and night trying to solve that problem. They're never trying to actually solve the problems of rural Pennsylvania. What they've decided is that they are going to tell the lie that what's happening in urban communities and what's happening in suburban communities is so disconnected from what's happening in rural Pennsylvania. That's what they want to tell us. It's a lie. It's a lie. Because the reality is, Senator Street brought it up, when my opponent, for example, shut down the Bureau of School Audits, meaning we are no longer doing annual compliance audits of our schools. He did it to do the bidding of the folks who want to shut down public education as we know it. Those are the people that fund his campaign. They funded his campaign to the tune of $1.8 million the last election cycle. $1.8 million. Now, Valerie knows I love Valerie. I love Valerie a lot. But if I give Valerie $1.8 million, I promise you I want something. I want something more than just like her friendship and her kindness and a nice welcome to Bedford County. These people want to do everything they can to dismantle public education. He literally put out a report, and his special interest buddies said the week before that Commonwealth Court case that came down, you remember that, where they said our schools were underfunded, constitutionally, unequitably funded? The week before that, to the day, he put out a report where he said Pennsylvania schools are overfunded. This is what these folks believe. They want to shut down public schools as we know it, and who bears the brunt of that? Poor kids in our urban cores and poor kids in our rural communities. Those are the folks that bear the brunt of it. When we talk about access to high-speed internet, there are some folks in my community who, yeah, the wiring is there, but they can't afford it, so they're still not on the internet. They're still in the parking lot doing their homework on Wi-Fi shared by somebody else. Just like folks who are in Greene County who are in that parking lot because we haven't built out the infrastructure. So when we recognize that there is a lot of synergy here, a lot of big problems that we can only solve together, then we ignore the people who want to divide us up by region, divide us up by race, divide us up by the religion who we pray to. We have big problems to solve here in Pennsylvania, big problems to solve. But we also have some serious leaders who, if given a chance, are going to do what it takes to solve those big problems. And as Eddie said, with just one vote in the House of Representatives, we've gone down the path of helping to solve some of those problems. With our friends in the Senate, the single largest investment in K-12 education in Pennsylvania history, we just did that together. We did it together. And when we do these good things for you all, for every single one of us, for our families, you have Republicans who are acting like they're doing the Democrats a favor if they fund schools. Seriously. They say, well, you want to fund schools and you want to make it so people have health care in their community. And so we want voter ID or some other like wacky thing in exchange for us doing what we're supposed to do to make life better for people. Yes. And so instead of negotiating with folks who don't want to do the right thing, how about we just take their jobs and we'll put some people in office who do want to do the right thing. My opponent has had 4 years to use the Auditor General's office to make government work for working people, to provide you and legislators and the executive agency with really thoughtful investigative reports that give a roadmap for how to solve the most intractable problems in Pennsylvania. He had 4 years to do it. He's not doing it. He's showing up today to the luncheon to pretend like he's doing it. He's doing nothing. And we have a chance to move in a different direction. So I'm grateful to you, grateful to be a part of this ticket. Let's go win. Thank you, my friends.
I told you had a lot of energy. But listen, we're going to need that kind of energy. Look, each and every one of our row offices are important. And one of the things that Democrats bring is they've lived real lives and dealt with real folks. Our next speaker has done that as well. She's worked with folks who've been in addiction. She's worked with people. She's organized complex systems. And she understands basic rights. She understands, for one, that raiding the Capitol is an insurrection, which I don't think her opponent does. She understands the needs that you all have, and she wants to make sure that Pennsylvania makes the right investments so that we get the return for regular people. I'm pleased and proud to introduce our next Pennsylvania Treasurer, Erin McClellan.
How y'all doing? So I am Erin McClellan. I am honored to be on this extraordinary ticket with the other two gentlemen that you just met, who I adore. A few weeks ago, I would have stood up here and reminded you that I was the only woman on your statewide ticket. But I am very happy that I don't have to say that anymore. So, yeah. I also have the pleasure of being around some extraordinary men. And I have to say, the guys on the other side, they don't really say nice things about women or cats or much of anything. So, and as somebody who comes from a working class steel town, I think that their vice president has some explaining to do about his working class street cred, because I'm not seeing it. As Malcolm and Eugene both told you, and they're absolutely right, we need to make government work for working people. Your treasurer guards your treasury, $163 billion. And there's a lot you can do to help working people, because at the end of the day, that's who fills the treasury. That money doesn't come from any elected official or any corporation. It comes from the working people of this state. And they deserve an honest broker that's going to protect all of the assets that money purchases and owns. First and foremost, the National Association of State Treasurers has said that every state treasurer holds a cybersecurity program to protect your $163 billion. It was a pioneering effort by Joe Torsella, the previous Democratic treasurer. Our state treasurer refuses, very much like Malcolm's opponent, to do that work. This was not my idea. This was the National Association's idea. And since she's been in office, we have had the Municipal Water Authority of Aliquippa in Beaver County hacked by Iran. Imagine Iran getting control of your water supply. You've seen Chester lose $400,000 in a phishing scheme. And the entire government of Washington County was shut down for weeks on end due to a ransomware attack that cost them $350,000. Now, maybe it's a little easier in some of the big cities to do cybersecurity when you have chief technology officers, but what I know, and I live in a small town named Harrison Township, is we don't have the resources, we don't have the sophistication. We desperately need a treasurer that's going to be in our 2,560 municipalities throughout this state, providing support, education, and alert system and resources to all of your municipal electeds. And as I've been traveling the state talking about this, what I have found is this is not a partisan issue. And I know a lot of your municipal electeds are Republicans, so I have been reaching out to them as well, reminding them that unlike our current treasurer, I will be in your backyard, providing you support, help lifting you up, and giving you the resources you need to protect yourselves from bad actors, foreign and domestic. A second issue that I want to look at is another program that our state treasurer completely just threw out the window. That's the shareholder engagement program. Now, with your $163 billion, you own stock in every publicly traded corporation there is. Did you know that? In the United States? Which means you have a voting share in those corporations. You heard Eugene and Malcolm both talk about restoring accountability to a corporate America and fighting them when they're wrong in the row offices. We actually have a vote at the table. Our current treasurer ended Joe Torsella's shareholder engagement program. And using that program, he went out and voted with pharmaceutical companies to tell them to start treating our people better and not turning our children into a whole new generation of addicted people. He went after gun manufacturers and said, let's protect our children from violence in their schools. Combined with treasurers all throughout the country that engage in that program, it equates to about $3 trillion worth of shareholder power. That's not just fighting corporations in the streets. That's not fighting them on the doors. That is fighting them in the boardroom, where they sit, where it matters most, where you will have a voice when I am your treasurer. And we need to restore that accountability back, because corporate America is not going to screw over working people when we have a vote at the table. The final thing I want to do is really talk about our pensions. Your treasurer runs your 3 pension funds and then the general fund. As you know, a lot's been done to our teachers' pensions, and for years, the Republicans in the legislature did not put the annual required contribution in for our teachers. Now, your school districts paid into that. Your teachers paid into it, but there's a lot of money that's missing there. That money was forgiven when we privatized pensions. I want that amount put back on the state's balance sheet with interest. So when we have people running, we can convince people to pay it back. But if you want to pay it back, you need to know how much it is. I trained for a year under Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill. And when he was fired by George Bush, it was because he was going to take the money that was stolen from Social Security and put it on the nation's balance sheet as a debt. And George Bush said, no, we're not doing that. We're not telling people the truth about the money we stole from them. We're going to keep hiding it. I want to do the same thing for our teachers and make accountability in our pensions a top issue. So when we move forward, when people run for governor or state legislature, they say, and by the way, we're going to get you back your money. Finally, our current treasurer has done some very alarming things investing our pensions. And one of the contracts we found, and there's a lot of them, was a pension investment contract with Bank of New York Mellon, specifically for the teacher's pension, to invest in the Tadawal. For those of you who don't know what that is the Saudi Arabian Stock Exchange. I cannot find one investment broker on either side of the aisle that can explain to me why we should be giving money to a stock exchange, which is primarily capitalized by Aramco, the state-owned oil company of Saudi Arabia. I guess she ran out of evil oil empires to invest in here in the United States. BP just wasn't good enough. We have to put money into a stock exchange that benefits the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who, if you remember, loves to dismantle, murder, and kill reporters. I don't think that these are the working class values that I was raised with. They're certainly not the values that the people who fill this coffer care for. And I want to make sure that we have an honest broker protecting our pensions, our municipalities, and our working people from here forward. But for us to do that, I need all 3 seats. I need you to get Malcolm and Eugene in there. We're a package deal. We can't be in there with Republicans who aren't going to work with us. So please, we need your help. We're down ticket. We're the races that people tend to forget about it. And as you know, we lost them in 2020. So when you go in the booth this November, restore accountability, put real watchdogs back in Harrisburg with Eugene DePasquale, Malcolm Kenyatta, and Aaron McClellan for state treasurer. Thank you all so much.
So let's be clear. Democrats definitely have more energy and more enthusiasm. Yes, we have it at the presidential race where Kamala Harris is a lot more energetic, a lot smarter, and a lot harder working than the Orange Menace. Yes, we have it at the vice presidential level where we have a real patriot in Governor Walz, as opposed to just a kind of a weirdo. On the other hand, thinks that people without kids shouldn't be able to vote in Vance. But we also have it with an auditor general candidate, an attorney general candidate, and a treasurer candidate as well. We need to make sure that when you are knocking on doors, when you are helping all the way down, take it to your state senate candidates and your state representative candidates too, that you're doing what it takes. I don't want to belabor this. The polls look good, and I'd rather have them look good than look bad. But as Diane, Greg, and as Peggy Lucas will remind us constantly, it's the election day vote that matters. And they looked good early on in 2016, and we eased up. We cannot make that mistake again. In 2020, we were hungry because we remembered how bad it was. He was staring us in our face, how bad the other guys were. Let's not forget how bad he was, because you all know better than anybody that if we don't fight for every vote in the supermarket, in the places of worship, if we don't fight for those votes when we're talking in schools, at daycare centers, we're talking on the job sites for those we need to make sure that people understand and remember how bad it was. So that all those Democrats and all those moderate Republicans and independents who knew, you know what, they know they just can't take how bad it was with the Orange Menace. We need you to keep working, keep talking, keep pulling, because those votes will matter. Because guess what? If Pennsylvania is the keystone to the blue wall, you are the glue, you're the mortar that holds the thing together. And so we thank you for everything you're doing. We cannot thank you enough, but we need you to hold up. We need you to keep working. We got 83 more days. Work all the way through, and when we do, we'll win. Thank you so much. And I think Diane's coming up here for something. I got to run and get on the road. God bless. Scott Conklin's going to close us out. How about it for our treasurer, State Representative Scott Conklin?
Thank you. I'm going to do up some final bookkeeping here. There are a few folks. First off, I'd like to thank the Center County Commissioners for allowing us to spend the day. Amber Concepcion is here. Thank you. Mark Higgins, thank you. Our RDA, our district attorney, Bernie Cantorna, thank you for here watching over us today. There was another state representative candidate. Denise, where you at? Where you at? Oh, you're in front of the light again. Come on out. Come on. No, just come out here so I can see you. Denise, just yell your name out and what district you're running for me.
Denise Maris, I'm running for the 76th district, which includes all of Clinton County. Parts of Union County is the district I'm running for.
Thank you.
Running against Stephanie Borowitz.
Thank you.
Stephanie Borowitz, that's who I'm running.
And I have one last thank you before we do the drawing. I want to thank PCN and most of all Ryan behind the camera today. Thank you so much for spending your day with us. God bless you.